Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a really huge shift in India's legal world. The old rulebook that our criminal courts have used for ages, it's gone. In its place, we have the Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita 2023, or let's just call it the BNSS. This new code pretty much redraws the map of our justice system. So let's break it down. And that brings us to the big question, the one we're really going to unpack today. With this new rulebook, who's actually calling the shots in the courtroom? Who decides what, and how much has that really changed? If you understand this, you pretty much understand the whole new system. So, for the longest time, the Code of Criminal Procedure, the CRPC, was the law of the land. That's now been swapped out for this new playbook, the BNSS. And as we go through this, we're going to see exactly what this switch means for the courts, and you guessed it, who holds the power. All right, before we can even start talking about power, we've got to understand the structure. I want you to think of it like a ladder. We need to know who's on which rung before we know how far they can reach. So let's climb this new judicial ladder and see how it's built under the BNSS. Okay, let's start at the top. At the very peak of the ladder in any state, you have the High Court. Come down one step at the district level, and you've got the Court of Session. Then we get to the magistrates. The big boss here is the Chief Judicial Magistrate, or CJM. Below the CJM, you have the Judicial Magistrate First Class, then Second Class, and finally, at the bottom, the Executive Magistrates, who mostly handle administrative stuff. Now, here's a really interesting thing about this new ladder. It's not just about what's been added, but what's been taken away. The BNSS has actually streamlined the whole thing by getting rid of two positions from the old system, the Assistant Session Judge and the Metropolitan Magistrate. They're just gone. So we've got the ladder figured out, but what good is knowing the structure if you don't know what each rung can actually do? This gets us to the real nuts and bolts of the system, the power to punish. Who can hand down what kind of sentence? And this table just lays it all out beautifully. Now, as you'd expect, the High Court and Court of Session can pretty much hand out any sentence the law allows, though a death penalty from a session court still needs the High Court's okay. But check out where the big changes are. A Judicial Magistrate First Class can now impose a fine up to 50,000 rupees. That's a five-fold increase from the old 10,000. And the Second Class Magistrate? They can go up to 10,000, which is double what it used to be. That's a serious upgrade in power. And the new law doesn't just tweak the old punishments. It adds a completely new tool to the toolbox, especially for petty offenses, community service. So instead of jail time or a fine, a court can now order someone to do unpaid work that actually helps the local community. It's a punishment, to be clear, not a job. If you're trying to picture what this looks like, you've probably already seen it on screen. Remember that recent Aamir Khan movie where he's a coach and gets busted for drunk driving? The judge doesn't throw him in jail. He sentences him to coach a team of kids with special needs. That is a perfect real-world example of community service in action. So what's the big idea here? Well, it's all about a different philosophy of justice. For these smaller offenses, the goal isn't just punishment for punishment's sake. It's based on the idea of reform, of trying to fix the problem and give the offender a chance to contribute something positive. It's about learning a lesson in a different way. Okay, that's a great theory, but let's get real for a second. We just saw how much those fines have gone up. What happens when someone gets hit with a big fine and just can't pay it? What's the plan then? Well, the BNSS has a very clear rule for this. If you don't pay your fine, the court can add extra jail time onto your sentence. The limit is up to 1/4 of the maximum possible jail time for that specific crime. And here's the clever part. This extra time is totally separate. It doesn't count against the magistrate's maximum sentencing power. Okay, so we've covered the structure. We've covered the powers. That leaves one final, absolutely critical piece of the puzzle. Who decides which court gets to hear which case in the first place? This is all about jurisdiction, or as the law calls it, competency to try. I mean, think about it. If a theft happens, which court's door do you knock on? What about something way more serious, like a murder? It can't be random, right? There has to be a clear roadmap to guide every case to the right courtroom. And there is. The BNSS gives us a roadmap with two main paths. Path 1 is for crimes under the new penal code, the BNS. For those, the answer is right there in the first schedule of the BNS. Path 2 is for crimes under other special laws. Think of things like the POCSO Act. For those, you first check that special law itself. If it doesn't say, you then turn to the second schedule of the BNS. And that second schedule has a really logical formula. It all comes down to the punishment. If the maximum sentence for the crime is over 7 years, boom, it goes to the Court of Session. If it's between 3 and 7 years, a judicial magistrate first class will handle it. And for anything up to 3 years, any magistrate can try the case. See? Nice and simple.
So it all seems to fit together perfectly, doesn't it? A clear hierarchy, defined powers, a roadmap for every crime. It's all very neat. But like any good legal puzzle, the BNSS has a hidden twist, a lingering question that makes you scratch your head a bit.
And here it is. It's the head scratcher. If those schedules we just talked about are so specific in telling us which magistrate tries which case, then why does Section 21 of the new law also say that the High Court and the Court of Session can basically try any offense? Doesn't that kind of contradict the whole system?
The answer? Well, it isn't a simple loophole. It's actually a vital legal safety net. It's a procedure to make sure that every single case, especially the most serious ones, gets the right level of attention and can't fall through the cracks. But the details of how that amazing mechanism works, well, that's a fascinating topic for another explainer. Thanks for watching.